Apple is making bold moves with its own silicone, while Samsung seems to be playing it safe with minimal hardware changes. That sets up an interesting question. When you put the iPhone 17 Pro Max next to the Galaxy S26 Ultra, how do they really compare? And more importantly, is there anything Samsung could take away from Cupertino's approach this time around? If you're into Samsung and Android coverage, stick around and consider subscribing. It genuinely helps the channel grow. Now, getting straight into it, both of these phones feel undeniably premium. The build quality on each is exceptional, but what stands out isn't the materials, it's the direction each company has chosen, and that shift becomes obvious the moment you look closer. Side by side, the contrast in design philosophy is clear. Samsung has largely carried forward its existing look, refining it slightly over the years. Apple, on the other hand, has taken a design that stayed familiar for multiple generations and decided to completely rethink it, introducing something that feels noticeably different in the hand. That new approach brings a heavier, more solid feel with the full metal build, while Samsung keeps its glass and metal combination slimmer and lighter. The S26 Ultra doesn't feel worse, it just feels familiar, almost too familiar. And when both devices sit next to each other, they look right at home in 2026, but one clearly takes more risks than the other. Both are unmistakably flagship devices, large, polished, and engineered to the highest standard. The choice between sharper edges or softer curves will come down to personal taste. But beyond that, Samsung's lack of visual evolution might matter more to some users than others, especially if you've been following their lineup closely over the years. When it comes to displays, Samsung still holds an edge. The S26 Ultra's nearly uninterrupted screen paired with a minimal punch hole cutout feels more immersive overall. Apple's dynamic island brings functionality, but it still breaks into content in a way Samsung's design avoids, creating a slightly cleaner viewing experience. Samsung has also introduced a new privacy display feature. It limits viewing angles to keep your screen content more secure in public spaces. It's a clever addition for travel or crowded environments, but it comes with compromises: reduced brightness, more reflections, and in some cases, even mild eye strain during longer use. It's one of those features that's useful in specific scenarios, but not something everyone will want active all the time. In fact, some might see it as a step back compared to previous models. Still, having the option is valuable. What's harder to overlook, though, is the absence of built-in magnetic support for accessories. Samsung relies on cases to enable that functionality, which feels like an odd omission given how widely it's used. While many people use cases anyway, it still feels like something that should have been included. And speaking of cases, protection becomes almost essential, especially if you're dealing with those sharp edges. Moving into performance and software, both phones deliver top-tier experiences. Day-to-day use feels equally smooth and responsive. There's no clear winner here, it's more about ecosystem preference. But visually, there's an interesting shift happening, especially on Samsung's side, with subtle design influences creeping in. UI has started adopting more glass-like elements, moving slightly closer to Apple's design language. It's not a full transformation, but the similarities are noticeable. For longtime Android users, that might not sit well, especially given Samsung's history of defining its own identity rather than following trends. Where Samsung pushes forward is in AI. The Galaxy AI suite feels more advanced and practical right now, offering tools like spam protection, live translation, and automated suggestions. Apple's AI features are functional but still feel like they're catching up, especially when it comes to context awareness and flexibility. Battery life tells another story. The iPhone 17 Pro Max proves more dependable under heavy use, comfortably lasting through a full day without stress. Samsung's S26 Ultra isn't weak by any means, but it tends to drop off earlier, especially during demanding tasks, which can make you think twice about your usage. Charging, however, flips the advantage. Samsung's faster speeds make quick top-ups incredibly effective, changing how you approach battery management altogether. Apple's charging is slower in comparison, though still reasonable. Then there's the camera, less about superiority, more about style, preference, and how each brand chooses to interpret the same scene.